is Candid. I'm both a student here at the University of Ottawa, and I'm also a member of the Ottawa Art Gallery's Youth Art Council, DEPOC. On behalf of DEPOC, I would like to welcome you to the very first Youth Art Symposium. It's been so exciting to see this idea start off from a few Slack messages between Doug, our old coordinator, and the Youth Council, and to see it kind of become this full-fledged conference. So thanks for joining us here. We've worked very hard over the past months to bring you an unforgettable experience here in the nation's capital. So if this is your first time in Ottawa, welcome. We have a ton of amazing events planned out over the next 3 days. And of course, aside from the free food, I'm very excited for Morgan and Mackenzie's panel discussion that will be happening later on. Also the presentations by the youth councils from Ottawa galleries across Ontario, as well as the panel discussions, the youth party going on Saturday, the graffiti tour, everything. I'm basically excited for the whole conference. So, before I continue on, est-ce qu'il y a des francophones dans la salle? Oui. Oui, ok. Donc, si vous êtes francophone, je vous encourage fortement à venir à la discussion qui va se passer samedi sur le bilinguisme et les arts. Donc, vous aurez la chance de vous inscrire à des ateliers le samedi matin. Now, back to English. So before I end the speech, I'd like to thank Zoom Productions for filming this first day of the conference, so make sure to follow Zoom Productions on Facebook. Our partner youth councils from across Ontario, our MC and graffiti tour guide, Mick Michel, our artist in residence, Naomi Tesler, our panelists, our dedicated volunteers, and of course, thank you guys for being here. We hope you enjoy the conference to the fullest, gain some valuable insight, make some lifelong connections, have fun, and most importantly, talk back.
My name is Morgana. It's a pleasure to be here today. I go by she, her pronouns, and overall I'm really ecstatic, to be here. I grew up in Ottawa, so to be able to be asked to come back from Toronto, where I now live, to do something like this, doing a keynote, is just absolutely bonkers. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. Before I moved to Toronto, I was working on a short film over the summer, and it was a mass amount of work. The move could have been something very simple, but I ended up moving 48 hours after wrapping this production. The short film is called Wild, and it's a 1937 period piece set in rural Ontario following a Francophone girl's discovery of a ghost living in her uncle's cornfield. And although it had an albeit smaller crew and budget, the period piece was anything but small to complete. I mean, after a full mirrored set build, growing our own cornfield, because that somehow happened, 3 a.m. night shoots, an 11-year-old lead, arguing over which kerosene lamp is period accurate, because there was a lot of that, and almost a $17,000 budget raised from literally nothing. If you know me at all, you know that I refer to that month as the month of period piece hell. But it was also one of the best months of my life, and that's because I love film. And film is something that makes me tick, and I feel so, so grateful to be able to say that that's my job. But as an 18-year-old who often has purple hair and wears Doc Martens, for some reason people don't really assume that that would be an expected and enjoyable month in my life. And that feels weird to me. Like, why wouldn't that be easy information for somebody to be able to consume? And I think it's because the stereotype of youth and 18-year-olds or teenagers or whatever is that we're glued to our phones and we're lazy and we're unmotivated, and above all else, we're not driven, and we don't have something that we want to do. And that's obscenely negative, and when you take that negative perspective and you put it onto youth artists, it's really discouraging for children to grow up and believe that. And the main point of my talk today is I just want to talk about why. Like, why can't an 18-year-old direct a commercial? why can't an 18-year-old work as BCAM on a documentary? Because I really think you can do that, because age isn't something that defines what you can or can't do. Yet, for some reason, so many youth and so many of my friends, and something that I believed for so long was that art wasn't a sustainable career. Before I get into things further, I just want to play you a little clip of some of the shots that I have from Wild, which is my short film. Basically, it's not out yet, probably won't be for another year, very sad. Film takes too much time. But I just want to give kind of a sneak peek as to what we're working with here. So this is just a compilation of clips. Oh God, computers are confusing. Let's see if I can work this. Perfect. Enjoy. Quick question, can anybody actually see the screen? Or do we want to kill the lights? I'm not sure if that's possible. Can we kill those lights? Kill them. Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you, people in the back. Awesome. Let's try that again. That's a little sneak peek of Wild and what it will be. It's currently in post-production, and we're working on editing and coloring it. What that means is basically, do you guys know what Instagram filters, how when you put it on a photo and all of a sudden it looks just amazing? It's like that, but with video, and it takes forever. So hence why it'll be out a year from now. So that's a little snippet of what I've been doing recently, but taking a step back, I just kind of want to start from the beginning of talking about age and how it really doesn't define who you are and what you can do. And as a kid, I was taught that right off the bat. I mean, I was raised through a Montessori education program, and Montessori basically teaches you and lets students progress at their own pace and doesn't put people in boxes. For example, if you can do, in terms of academics, if you are in grade 5, but you can do grade 6 math, you can do that. Or if you're in grade 5 and you can only do grade 4 math, you can do that. And it really focuses at teaching children to go forth in the direction that they want to do and pursue the things that they wanted to pursue. And for me, that was visual arts. I mean, visual arts was basically my childhood. Some of the earliest memories I have are of my mom, who had this, basically this portable desk that she put in the back seat of our car, and it hung off of the headrest of the seat in front of me. And what unfolded was this bright blue Scooby-Doo work desk that was crammed with like crayons and any kind of art materials I had. And it got to the point where it was disgusting, because in the summer the crayons would melt, and by the time we threw that thing out, it was just a ball of wax and crafts over the years. But I loved it. It was so awesome. And I just wanted to do that. I just wanted to do anything that I could take my hands on and just create. And that ended up channeling into art classes. I took art classes all the way up until I was 14. I took up sewing. I made my Halloween costumes. And eventually all that energy just kind of became a focus into certain things. And at first was a focus into Canterbury. And if you're not from Ottawa and you don't know Canterbury, Canterbury is a visual arts high school here. And it can be intense. You have to audition, but I was just so fixated on that. I wanted it so bad that I kind of started prepping my portfolio about a year before my actual audition even took place. And when I was accepted, I'm sure the young me at Ottawa School of Art, who just started taking art classes, was like peeing herself from excitement. But it was weird, because around the same time that I was in grade 9 and I actually started to go into Canterbury for visual arts and really started to go into this world of visual arts, I started to become more curious about film. And that was where it all started. That was where the shift kind of happened. It was about 2 years earlier. I was 12 and I went on vacation to Orlando, Florida with my parents. It was kind of one of those, like, you know, those vacation days where it's kind of too rainy to go on the roller coasters and too rainy to go to the beach, so you go to the movies. and we watched a movie called Super 8 by J.J. Abrams, and the whole subplot of the movie are these kids who are making a zombie film. And being 12 and watching children my age do that in a movie and actually kind of succeed was cool, and I wanted to do that. I asked my mom, and I saved up for this whole camera, and I did it in like 5 hours on this hot summer afternoon with 5 of my friends, and it was not good by any means. It was not the epitome of an amazing film, and it's something that I look back on and I laugh at, which I'm going to do with you now. And I'd like to stress that this is something that I don't even show some family members of mine because it's quite dated. That was part of the reason why I wanted to show you clips from Wild first. So we're going to take a second and watch the trailer for my first ever short film called, very appropriately, Yet Another Zombie Film. It's great. If we can. Also, nobody should have a desktop this messy. This is shameful. Very shameful. My mother would be very disappointed. If we can. This is why we do tech rehearsals, eventually. So, that doesn't want to play. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to talk about it. Basically, I acted in it. That's your first ticker that this was something that should never be seen. Toilet paper zombie makeup, have you guys heard of that? Yeah, that happened. That also happened. It was a lot of sweat, a lot of friends that I'm not sure if I even had friends after that film. And it wasn't good, but it started my love for filmmaking, right? It started the spark for years later when I just wanted to do that. So I kept doing it. I kept making short films, and they weren't very good, but I think it was just kind of an extension of, and kind of like an example of anything that you should be able to do in your life, right? You should be able to do something and want to do something because the 12-year-old inside of you just can't sit still because they want to do it so bad. Because that was all I wanted and all I wanted to do. And a year later, I ended up shooting this film called Mirror with more friends and more summer days, and frankly, probably a worse result. But I loved it. A year later, I had just finished Mirror, and I was coming out of art classes in anticipation for Canterbury. I was prepping my portfolio, and my mom picked me up, and she told me that Mirror had been rejected from a film festival that I had been hoping so badly to get into for months. I mean, it was the world's largest youth film festival, kind of like the Sundance of youth film festival for young filmmakers all the way up to 24. And hearing that was just so crushing. And she was super positive about it. She said, you know, Morgana, they sent an email, and in the email they said that we can email and we can get feedback in a few weeks from now, and next year you'll just make another one and you'll submit again. And I mean, I agreed with her. Obviously, I didn't want to quit, but it sucked. I mean, it was crushing. That rejection was crushing of something that you just put your entire heart and soul into, and just having somebody just send a form-generated email that just says no is horrible. And it's a punch in the gut that kind of takes a while to go away, but it never really does. And I think at 13, the thing that got me over that was this quote from Ira Glass. And it talks about rejection, and it kind of talks about the gap that we as creatives feel with rejection. So I'm just going to read that now. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there's this gap. For the first couple of years, you make stuff, and it's just not that good. It's trying to be good, and it has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, it's still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you, and a lot of people never get past that phase, and they quit. Most people who do interesting creative work went through years of this, and we know our work doesn't have to be this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you're just starting out or you're just in this phase, you've got to know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you will finish one story. It's only going to be going through a volume of work that you will close that gap, and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure that out and how to do that than anyone I've ever met. It's going to take a while, but it's normal to take a while. You've just got to fight your way through. So that was what I did. I acknowledged the gap. instead of viewing everything I couldn't do as a disadvantage and remembering that all I wanted to be was here, but I was hitting the ceiling here, I just accepted that. And I thought, great, let's work with that for now. Eventually, we'll someday get better. I ended up emailing the festival. I got feedback from them, which was really brutal to hear, but I accepted it, swallowed it, and moved on. And through acknowledging that gap, I made this new short film, and I realized all these cool things about myself. I realized that the kind of dialogue heavy, the really generic conversations that a 13-year-old is writing and trying to write like an adult, but can't because they're 13, I scrapped that and I started doing visual storytelling. I just decided to do a short film totally about visuals, no dialogue, and it was great. I got better sound equipment, I made it tighter, I didn't do a 30-minute short film that nobody wants to watch, and I made this short film called Gifts about this young girl who receives premonitions of people's fate, and instead of just living with that, she decides to try and intervene on fate and help them before their death actually happens. That short film, Gifts, ended up getting into NIFTY, that same festival, a year later, and not only did it get into that festival, but I went to Seattle and it ended up winning, out of all the filmmakers there, Best Emerging Female Filmmaker and a scholarship to Seattle Intensive in Film. And it was crazy. I, for once in my entire life, was showing my film to a room of people that weren't aunts and uncles. And they weren't just pinching my cheeks and telling me that it was good because they had to and because we were related. These were people who I had never met before, who were coming up to me and saying, you should make this into a series, or, oh my God, I want to see more. And I still, to this day, I mean, a few months ago, I got an email from a teacher in Philadelphia at a film school who wanted permission to basically analyze the film in his film class. That's something that I never would have been able to do if I, after Mir, had just given up and gone, you know what, Mom, nope, we're not doing this, we're going to bed and trying something else. And I'm just so, so glad that I acknowledged the gap and went for it. But it's important to acknowledge that that struggle never goes away, right? You're not all of a sudden perfect. I, at 14, wasn't all of a sudden the epitome of a filmmaker. I ended up going to that Seattle intensive and creating this short film called Ellie. And it was great. I put my entire heart and soul into writing it, but long story short, I didn't finish the shoot. Like, I literally did not finish the shoot, and I left that camp not only without a film, but with no confidence, because I felt like I had relapsed. I felt like I had gone back to Mir, and maybe I wasn't cut out for doing this at all anymore. And for about a year, that kind of haunting, like, memory of fear just affected me. I couldn't go on to a next film that I was doing without being worried about not finishing the shoot or being anxious about it not being good enough. And it was crippling having that fear of failure haunt you in everything you do in your art that you just want to be so good at. But again, acknowledging the gap, just taking a deep breath, taking 5 minutes to be angry and be frustrated, because that's important at the end of the day, to be frustrated that you're not where you want to be, and pick it up again. 8 months later, I took this unfinished script and failed project and started it from scratch, which no one does. I mean, I have a lot of filmmaker friends who have failed films, and you leave that in the gutter. But I took it up again, and I did the same thing with Gifts, and I got feedback. I went ACTRA, and I took a union production, and I ran a Kickstarter to fund it, and before I knew it, I had a $10,000 film in the works. I brushed myself off and I went for it, and like, damn, it was successful. I mean, it ended up winning a handful of awards. It got me associated with TIFF's Young Filmmaker programs, and I just making like Ellie that second time cured me of that fear. I just want to play very briefly a clip from Ellie and Gifts to just kind of show you the example of, if my computer decides to work. Either that or this computer just hates me and it won't work at all throughout this entire presentation. Just kind of show an example of progression and how sometimes, if I was going to be able to show you my first ever short film, you'd be able to see the kind of lack of quality, I guess there is, and over the years, if you kind of look at the work you've done, I'm sure, like, if there are any visual artists in this room, you can look at a photo, like a drawing of an eye that you did 5 years ago and one that you did now, and they're completely different. I think it's a really wonderful way of being able to reflect your art. So the first clip is from Gifts. collected those newspapers with my dad for a month before the shoot, and we went to this gas station every single day to collect daily newspapers and just cut out anything gruesome from the newspaper and put them on the wall, and it was fun tidbit. It was a weird experience. And a year later, I guess 2 years later, this is the final product of Ellie when I did it a second time.
So, tell me exactly what you did today. Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite the evolution, and it's something that I try and kind of have this mentality of getting better and constantly keep working to improve your work, but every so often when you go back to actually look at the work that you've done, it's important to be able to take a moment and kind of be proud of the evolution that you've had, because at the end of the day, if your mentality is just constantly, I need to be better, it becomes crippling, and you're not doing anything except negative energy towards your art that you started because you were 12 and you loved it. Overall, there's this pressure of the norm, and that's something that I just want to talk about a lot of, especially with youth artists. If you're in school, and especially I have a lot of friends who went to very academic high schools, and that was the normal. I mean, you would study for math and you would do well on that math test, and if you were an art kid in that high school, it wasn't normal, and that's weird. And I really hate that pressure of the norm, because it sucks all the energy out of these really interested youth filmmakers. And I think my kind of first experience was when I started shooting. I now work as a cinematographer and camera operator in Toronto, but it all started, really quickly, does anyone not know what a cinematographer is? Raise your hands if you don't. Heck yeah, thank you. So a cinematographer, basically, we shoot the film. So all the lighting cues, the composition, the color, we basically design that. And there are a million other people beneath us, like camera operators and colorists and gaffers, who are kind of helping us to design that vision, but we work directly with the director to create what they want to see visually. And I started doing that because I didn't understand that that wasn't what the director did. I thought the director, when I was 12, also shot the film, and that was what they did. And when somebody kind of pulled me aside and went, Morgana, that is a completely different role, what are you doing? Now be free and just go direct, and you never have to pick up a camera again. It was weird because I felt stuck, right? Like I started to really grow to like cinematography and like shooting. So I kept doing it, and there was a lot of negativity around it, and I got a lot of kind of flack for it. But eventually it grew. People started to say that they liked my visuals, that they felt something from it. And I assumed that somebody coming up to you and saying, wow, I really like the cinematography. It was just kind of a pretentious thing that people said at film festivals. But it started to become this trend. And eventually a friend of mine in Toronto asked me, she called me last minute and she said, oh my goodness, my DP, director of photography, cinematographer, same thing, called me last minute and said, Morgana, my cinematographer just bailed on me for my thesis film. She was in grade 12, and I need someone. Can you please come up to Toronto to do this? And I said yes, and it was my first experience at being able to go onto someone else's work and work with a director who wasn't myself and not shooting my own work. And it was wonderful. It was my first experience in Toronto, seeing the world bigger, that this art expands further than Ottawa, expands further from Canada or wherever it is. And now I've done a million things. I've been able to work as B camera operator on La Machine. If you were in Ottawa over the summer, you probably noticed a ginormous dragon and spider wandering through the streets. That happened. And there was a documentary following them, so I was very grateful to be able to work as a camera operator on that. And in Toronto, I've been working on a few CBC web series. And it all kind of stemmed from this one little interest. And it's wonderful because it's all across the board, but people still give you flack for it. I mean, people used to give Reed Morano flack for it. And if you have heard of Handmaid's Tale, which is a new Hulu series, Reed Morano directed The Handmaid's Tale, but she didn't start as a director. She started as a cinematographer with the American Society of Cinematographers and went for it. She shot shorts. She has over 50 credits on short films and features. She shot films while very, very pregnant. And she and those type of people are kind of the people that give me hope on those nights where, you know, you're kind of lying in bed, you're thinking, what the heck am I doing? Did I make this right decision, or am I making some horrible mistake here? People like Reed Moreno and those kind of role models really give me hope that we are going in the right direction. Art is work, and I think there's a stereotype that working as an artist is waking up late and being laid back and like living in this golden circle of artsy fartsy lands, and that's not real. I mean, I haggle with people about HST more often than I actually shoot things. And it's work, and to excel at anything you have to work hard. And I think people think film is glamorous when it's not, and it's easy to think that because you look at the clips from Wild. They look nice and they look pretty, and we're kind of able to look at them now and go, wow, that took 20 seconds of my day, great, thumbs up, and you walk away. But what you don't see is how expensive it is and how uncomfortable it is, the tears, the literal crying, and that amount of work. And film can be unforgiving. And I feel like art in general, we can all relate to the fact that it's very unforgiving. And it's not a comfortable career, but I think you can do it, but you need to want it. And that's why it makes me really frustrated when I see parents or people in schools basically saying, oh, art isn't a sustainable career, or you can't do that, or you're just 13, put down that paintbrush and for this one thing. And nobody saw that, right? When I told a few friends about that when I moved to Toronto, and they asked, you know, how did Wild go? I said, oh, well, it was a living hell. And they went, really? But on Instagram, the stills look so cool and they're beautiful. And it's negative and it's horrible. And I remember one night, I think it was day 6 out of 11 on our shoots, and it was our first night shoot, and I was tired. We were all tired, and it was our first night shoot. And night shoots generally have a kind of collective, somber attitude to them because you are kind of thinking, you know, I should be sleeping, but instead I'm setting up a light in a cornfield for very low to no pay. And it was overwhelming, and it was one of those things where it was a hard shoot, but it wasn't really anything that was different from things I'd been doing in the weeks or frankly years to prior and just film overall. But I was overwhelmed, and during our break, I walked into the cornfield that we had grown from scratch, fully rigged in my camera gear in the night, and I just cried. I literally cried in a cornfield, and if nobody here thinks that visual is really funny and they think I'm trying to make this sad, that's hilarious. I just want you to know, funniest, weirdest moment ever, crying in a cornfield. But it was because I was scared. And I ended up calling a friend of mine in Los Angeles who worked as a production designer on my film, and just talking to him and saying, you know, Hadley, I know this is hard, and I'm okay with this being hard, but it's still, I don't know what I've gotten myself into. And I don't know what to do, and I know that I'm gonna be able to finish this film and pick myself up and go back inside and talk to my assistant director and get the next scene done, but I'm scared. And I felt so alone. I felt like I was the only person ever who had ever felt like that. I felt like a bad filmmaker, and like, again, maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe this isn't what I should be doing. And Hadley laughed, and I said, why are you laughing? This is not the time to be laughing. And he said, you know, on a short film that I just recently did, which ended up going to Palm Springs, which is an Oscar qualifying film festival, and amazing, amazing things, he basically told me that he had made those same phone calls, those exact same phone calls where he called people and just went, what the hell am I doing? And I think it was one of those moments where I realized that feeling scared about what's next is not only okay, but it's necessary, especially in a field like art, because everyone feels it too. And sharing those really beautiful things that you create is great, but it's also important to acknowledge the hardships and the difficulties that you go through to be able to make something. Sometimes you need people to tell you what you already know and remind you that the 12-year-old who started this originally is still rooting for you in the back and they're still saying that you can do it. And it can be a lonely endeavor, but I think if you take the fear that is so heavily involved with it and you use it to fuel your work, it all becomes a little less scary, and at the end of the day, very, very worth it when you're able to sit back and look at something that you did and go, wow, I made that. thank you to 12-year-old me, thank you to all those people who supported me. That's the main thing that I just wanted to say, was being able to sit back at the end of the day is so much more gratifying than ever, ever, ever giving up. Thank you.
We're from the AGO Youth Council, Art Gallery of Ontario.
So our presentation is called Podcasts and Pizza. It's just AGO youth opinions on the way that adults sometimes, or adults a lot of times, like they police youth ideas and youth opinions and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna talk about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice segue to work on this presentation. So, yeah.
Okay.
So hi, I'm Nara. That's me. That's my Instagram. You can follow me if you want. Yeah, it's pretty groovy. If you're ever in Toronto, just like drop me a DM and be like, yo, what's up? Show me some good spots.
So yeah, and my name's Tennessee, and this is my Instagram, Orphan Plant. So we're both from the AGO Youth Program, the AGO Youth Council, and the Youth Council where the AGO Youth Programming is arranged and directed towards youth from age 14 to 25. So we have a lot of different things going on. So these are just some of the programs that we have.
Yeah, so like our most recent workshop that we do for like the free after school drop-ins was sock printing and decorating with the local Toronto artist Kendra Yee. If you read Rookie magazine, you might know some of her work.
Yeah. These are other programs that we've had, so like skateboard building and mask making. This is an image, this is like just a little behind the scenes thing from our last project, which was with an artist named Oliver Hussein. And we did an installation video with him that's currently being played in Estonia, which is really cool. And
Also,
this
in the AGO basement.
Oh yeah, it is an AGO basement. So like if you're in Toronto or like in Estonia, you should go check it out. This lovely lady right here is Sarah. She's our program director. She's right there.
Hi Sarah. So yeah, I guess let's get to it.
Yeah.
So yes, like teens, young people, youth, we like to hang out in basements, we like to skateboard, we like to eat pizza, but that doesn't mean we want a picture of a pizza skateboarding in a basement on a shirt like made by like a 30-year-old person in an office somewhere. So please don't give that to us.
So my child is emo. So this one is mainly just, we want to talk about how a lot of times certain terms are used to just describe youth in usually a negative way. So the term emo just means emotional. And sometimes it seems like it's a positive thing, like if you want to be emo, go and do you. Like, dress the way you want to dress, act the way you want to act, and like things you want to like. But also sometimes it's just used in a way to put down you, like, or not acknowledge the fact that we actually have feelings, and sometimes we are emotional, and sometimes we are going through things, and instead of just like labeling us as like, yeah, you're emo and you're this and you're being moody and you're bad.
It's also just like, if you see your friend is looking sad, like reach out to them. If they don't want to talk to you, reach out to them the next day. If they're like, I don't want you to call me emo because I'm being sad and that undermines my feelings, listen to them. Tell somebody they're undermining your feelings or giving you a catch-all term. Why do you dress like that? Or alternately, do you think that's something good to wear? Or like, I don't really like your outfit type sentiments. Okay, but if you dress like that, like please do, because I will see you and I'll be very happy. That's Roy.
Quick, yeah, he's in fashion at Ryerson University, so like he made that hat. It's really cool. So this one's more just about like how a lot of times we do this to each other too as youth and as well adults, where we just kind of want to like put people in boxes in the way they want to dress, in the way that they just express themselves. Dressing is a really important aspect of everyone's lives. It's a milestone when you're old enough to dress yourself and choose your own clothing. So we shouldn't put such like a boundary in the way that people dress and the way that people want to express themselves, as long as it's respecting, like as long as they're comfortable, they like it, and it's respecting and understanding the people around them as well. I feel like dress however you like, if you like.
Yeah, also like just expect like when people are expressing themselves, like be ready for criticism, but also be ready for like to like sort of like categorize like criticism. Is it good? Is it constructive? Or is it bad? Like if somebody's telling you you're appropriating my culture, don't wear that. Listen to them. But if somebody's like your purple shoes are bad, never wear them again, just like nah, be like, why don't you have purple shoes? I think they're pretty cool.
So that's like a great segue. Like, do you need help? So this one is mainly about like it references both how to adults and to youth. So do you need help can either be really undermining, as in like Morgana was saying, like if you're 13 and you want to be a cinematographer, if you're 13 and you want to be a visual artist, you want to curate something. Like sometimes it's like, do you need help? Are you sure you can like handle that camera? Are you sure like you can make your you can prep your own canvas? Like let me do it for you. And then sometimes it's like, do you need help? As in like I can give you like a situation like the youth council. I can give you like that step where you can make yourself, or like you can go out and do what you need to do. And also, it's good to accept help and understand the difference between help and criticism as well.
Yeah, it's also just like, I feel like as young creators, or like just young people, you always see that person who's like the same age as you, and you're like, why am I not there? But it's like, we can't all be Tommy Gevinson. Like, she has so much money and so much resource. She had so many people help her and give her ways to get there. Like Steve Lacy's pretty great, he recorded his own album, but like he still got the internet to like help him and spread.
The internet is a band, not yeah, he actually used the internet, but also like the internet, the band.
But he still got like different, like the internet wanted to spread, but also like the internet to like help him shape who he is and shape his sound. So it's like, you always need help, always welcome help, always accept help, seek out help. It's like the best thing you can get.
Especially through technology as well.
Yeah. It's your
Damn
damn phone!
So, again, like another phrase that like we probably hear a lot, like it's your phone that makes everything so difficult. Like you're living a life and your phone, you're using it to just be narcissistic. You're on Instagram because you just want to look at yourself and you want validation all the time. Like it's not serious and it's ruining your life. And a lot of times, like it's not. I don't even have a phone. Like I don't have a phone number. I haven't had a phone number in like almost 2 years. And I've had so many connections through social media and through like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to like do stuff and get into different residencies and be in like different programs through it. So like it is my damn phone that helps me get there and like connect to people and like connect to all of you guys. Like that's why we put the Instagram up there, and that's why we put our Instagram, so then we can connect and talk.
Yeah, because it's like, another part of like the your damn phone is just like knowing that like it's okay to seek out validation through like social media. It's okay to seek out like connections through social media. If you see somebody who's like, you're like, I think you're cool, don't be afraid. Like, if you see somebody who likes something that nobody else likes that you like, go talk to them. But also know when, if it's making you feel bad and you're not getting the proper validation from that place, just like put your phone away, disappear for a while. That's chill.
Disconnect, go ghost. If you want a ghost, go ghost.
This is great. Is that our ending?
Is that the end, or is it just like...
I'm so confused about what the cues are.
Okay. Millennials have killed napkins.
This is a real headline. It's true. Millennials are killing everything. We're killing Hooters. We're killing, what else is there? Diamonds, which is fine. That's just showing that we know what's bad and we're getting rid of it.
Right. Like, we're slowly starting. It just shows how important we are, and how important it is that we do what we do, and that we know when to change and we know how to grow together, because we're changing the world. We're changing the world. Yeah, we're doing so many different things, and we're changing the ideas that society has already like made up from years previously, and now it's like we're taking that. I don't want to swear. We're taking that stuff down.
Yeah, and it's also like, another part of it is that like all these things that we're destroying are just like sold to us by like bad like capitalistic corporations. So it's like, I'm not gonna relate, like emojis are killing themselves.
Yeah.
It's like the damn emoji movie. But it's like,
It's so true.
it's so true, but it's like, I don't find it relatable when like a 40-year-old dude is like, I'm hip with the kids. I find it more relatable if I'm like talking to an adult and they're just being themselves, because I'm probably going to learn so much from you, and we're probably going to have things in common, and that's so much cooler than you just trying to like mimic me.
Sell stuff to us. Why do you hang out with them? So,
Yeah. This is sort of like about like, a lot of the time parents are like, or like adults in your life judge people that you hang out with because they're like, are they really good influences? And it's sort of like, yeah, usually they are. Usually they make you feel happy and they make you feel comfortable, and you should like be allowed that. Everybody should be allowed a solid community, and we found that through like the youth council. But at the same time, like if one of your friends is like do you think that person is really good, like, make sure it's not a toxic relationship with somebody. Like, oh, you should never be afraid to cut somebody off.
It's like also like hanging out with yourself, having a relationship with yourself and understanding, like Nara said, it's all about relationships with yourself and your community, and then like your close friends as well, and understanding what's healthy and what's not, and then like a relationship with your like work and your art as well.
Yeah.
And then
So yeah, that's us. That's us on Instagram if you want to follow us. We're gonna go back to Toronto later and record this as a podcast and publish it. So if you follow us through our Instagram, you're gonna get to see when that's released, and that's really cool.
And we tend to follow back, so like just
Like,
like
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. You are so right. You guys are changing the youth is definitely breaking the stereotypes, and the music is my cue to stop. Yeah, we're just going to have quick questions and answers. If you guys want to stay up on stage with me, I think that's why there was a third chair, if you don't mind. Okay. Yes, if you have a question, I do believe we have a microphone for you. It's just up here, but it is a small, intimate gathering. You could also just raise your hand. Vous pouvez aussi juste lever la main et poser des questions. Do you have any questions? Oui, Candide.
How did you guys get started
On art or like in the council?
in the council?
She stopped me. We're so the AGO has like free after 3 programs where we just have like different workshops and stuff.
That's what skateboard making and
Yeah,
masks.
and that's what the like mask picture. I can go back.
Yeah, but basically, fun story.
Actually, it was that program. I was there that evening with my friend, and Sarah just like slid in front of me. She's like, "Hey, so do you know what the youth council is?" And then now we're here.
Yeah, it was similar for me. Like, I went to Free After 3 a lot, and then I would like, one of the girls from my school was actually on the youth council, and I would be like, that's so cool. Can I do that? So then I applied.
Thank you. And I believe there was a second question just beside Morgana.
Are podcasts and pizza going to be recurring podcasts, or can it be?
We recorded one episode that's,
It's only 2. Really,
yeah, one is almost done. It's just like in its final stages of editing.
And then we have like another one that's on friendship. And we just chose like pizza and podcasts because we eat a lot of pizza at the AGO, and podcasts are great. So we're gonna try to keep on doing that. That's like something we want to do.
Yeah.
And maybe one last question, if time permits. Does anybody else? We behind we have Alexis handing you the microphone as Vanna White. We.
What are you guys pursuing, like career-wise?
I'm in I'm in high school right now, and I go to an arts-focused high school, and I'm studying film. I don't know if I'm going to pursue that, but probably something with like video art or like community-focused arts I'm interested in.
I'm a visual artist, so I paint a lot, and I do painting, sculpture, and like drawing, and I want to start doing like video art or maybe like live performance art, but I don't know. But I'm currently at like I'm at a regular university, York University for French, so je suis francophone ici. Salut. And I'm in poli-sci, so not in my field, but I'm thinking about getting a double major, doing a minor in curatorial practices or in studio art. So I don't know, like in short. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your honesty, surtout. Thank you, merci. Yeah, so please, thank you. And if I can, yes.
Okay, so my name is Meher. I'm part of the youth council at WAC, or Workers Art and Heritage Center. I did my bachelor's, my undergraduate in McMaster University in labor studies, which is one of the reasons why I'm associated with WAC, because it just resonated so much with what I studied.
My name is Dina Hamid. I'm a studio art student at McMaster University, and I came to know the Workers Art and Heritage Center because one of my professors recommended that I get involved there. They just thought it would be a good fit, and I totally 100% agree. So we're going to start with like a little background information about WAC, because I don't know if a lot of people in Ottawa will know about it, but it has a beautiful history, and it really demonstrates the resilience of workers when they come together as a community. It was established in late 1980s by a dynamic group of people. There were like labor historians, artists, and union and community activists. So why was it established by these people? And it was basically to address a need for workers to have a place where their history can really be celebrated and talked about in the community. And so today, we're so fortunate to carry out this vision in one of Hamilton's most historical sites. It's called the Custom House Building, and it was built in the 1860s. Originally, it was used to handle trades through the Hamilton Harbor into Upper Canada. And look at how gorgeous it is. It's beautiful. In 1996, a hardworking group of volunteer board directors purchased the custom house, and WAC was born. It still stands strong today, situated in the heart of an amazing working class neighborhood. So at WAC, we have a mandate and a vision to preserve, honor, and promote, educate the community about the culture and history of all working people. Appropriately, it runs a youth council with members between the ages of 16 and 25. So our youth come from diverse backgrounds, as you can tell, don't all have to be visual artists. And we pride ourselves on this because we really think it helps the collective Hamilton effort to make more inclusive spaces in the city. So another important reason why the youth council should exist and be diverse is because one day these youth council members could sit on the board of directors. And if we want to diversify our boards, this is a great way to do that if we're priming potential candidates in our own youth councils. So I just want to take a moment to recognize Tara Bursey, our amazing program coordinator, and through her leadership and guidance, we've been able to do some really amazing things, and Mihar will go over that now.
Alright, so our main series that we did as a youth council was called Solidarity on Screen. It was an outdoor screening series where we screened 3 movies every single month on a Friday, and we would basically either have a youth teach-in afterwards, or we would have some sort of activity relating to each movie. So the first movie we did was The True Cost. The True Cost is a documentary. It takes a look at the fashion industry, specifically the factory workers in the fashion industry, and it centers around the working conditions of these workers, especially those who were working in the Rana Plaza, which collapsed despite the fact that the workers repeatedly brought up the fact that this building is not up to par. And it's important we chose this movie because, one, we want to show our solidarity with these workers, but two, as consumers, I think it's incredibly important to see where the things that we wear and the things that we consume come from, and we can do whatever we want with that knowledge. It may change us, it may not, but I think it's important that we have that knowledge in the first place.
It's a good reminder to know that our dollars have power. So the way that we use them is really important. Can bring on a lot of change.
So that's a picture of our guest speaker. His name is Rupon Chaudhry. He's from the Bangladesh Free Trade Union Congress, and he basically talked about how, despite the fact that this documentary is a fairly popular documentary, but a lot of work regarding garment workers hasn't really changed, unfortunately, and it's a continuous fight. And we also had a youth teach-in from the Hamilton Labor District Council, I believe. Yes, I got that right. Okay. And it was basically an introduction to the labor movement. So the next movie we watched was called After the Last River. It looks at the Attawamskat community and what happens when a De Beers mining company moves in there and they put a diamond mine, and basically the consequences that this mine has on the community, and it kind of brings about the question of how much responsibility do organizations have when they move into these communities and they have unintended consequences to the locals, and how much accountability do they really carry with that. And so we did a blanket exercise. It was with the
McMaster Indigenous Community Alliance, so it's MISCA.
Yeah. there we go. So they initiated this blanket exercise, which is basically like we had a huge blanket, and all the participants stood on the blanket. The blanket was depicting indigenous land in North America, and eventually a blanket would get taken away each time, and it was showing the loss of both life and land of the indigenous community. The last movie we had was Complicit. It basically looks at a Chinese factory worker who became an activist, and his story is that he had work-induced leukemia, and he's fighting, you know, on behalf of himself, basically. He's learning labor laws so that he can fight his previous employers, because, you know, leukemia from work, like, no one signs up for that. And for this event, we had poets, so they were Clyde Brooks and Angie C. And basically what they did was that they recited a poem from a worker who worked at the same factory as that Chinese worker, but he committed suicide, and his poems often revolved around the horrific working conditions of that factory.
More recently, we hosted a banner making workshop, and it was really inspired by the American labor activist Dolores Huerta, and her main slogan was "Si se puede," which basically means in English, "Yes, we can." And I don't know if you guys would be familiar with this. In recent history, Obama used that as his main slogan for his campaign. So we're kind of reclaiming that. And what we did was explored other feminist activists that were important to our event attendees. We printed out their images on like an iron transfer, and like basically transferred it using an iron onto the canvas, and people decorated it. Then they translated the slogan "Yes, we can" into the respective native languages of where those feminist activists came from. And it was just a really great way to not only have the youth engage in, you know, more serious topics, but it was also really great for them to see historical role models while making artwork, because like the banner was made out of embroidery and fabric paint, canvas, the iron on transfers, and applique. There's a picture here of us working on it. The event was actually covered by the McMaster University run publication, The Silhouette, and it was just a really strong program for the Youth Council. We got really great feedback that it was well received, especially because it was hands-on, and it was a great way for us to generate like upcoming ideas for what we want to do this year. I also think I just want to say that although we do deal with some more serious issues at WAC, I think we more than welcome younger members of the Youth Council, and we really encourage you guys to visit us. On our website, you'll find all of our social media links there too, or come down. There's our address, you know, in Hamilton. Come visit us. But thank you.
Merci, thank you. Thank you for not running away. Merci pour vous avoir sauvé. I have so many questions, but I'm sure there's people in the crowd. Il y a des ados ici qui ont plein de questions. Did anybody have a question to start off with? Any hands in the air? Questions about what you've seen, what they're doing, any subjects they brought up? The medium. Oui, madame, yes.
How is your, like, how do you get people to, there's a microphone. How do you get people to come, and how do you engage, how do you show people that these programs aren't only important because the matter's important, but also it's important to talk about it with other, like, dope young people?
I can speak to that. I think one of the main ways that we do that is we take advantage of the fact that the Hamilton art community is very well connected, and we have our own youth members go out into the community through their own connections and advertise through their social media outlets. So we show that the youth themselves that are running the council are interested in it, and we do outreach through our members specifically to attract, you know, more youth. And I think it's been successful so far. Like at the banner exercise, we had a great turnout, and 3 potential, or actually no, they joined, youth members come aboard from that one event, so it was really great.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, for sure. Just before the time runs out, do we have another question? Est-ce qu'il y a une autre question? Commentaire, suggestion? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline and I'm the head coordinator and current artist in residence with Museum London's Youth Council. I've got Isabel Higgin and Dominique Cho here to talk to you about social media, but before we get started I wanted to say a few words about who we are and what we do. So our council meets once a week on Thursdays, and in the time we've been running, we've been lucky to do lots of awesome things. We meet with artists in residence to talk about their practice. We review and exhibit our own work, and we review works from the museum. We also bring art to community activities like fundraising events, museum events, and youth celebrations. And we also strive to become ambassadors for the arts and to make London a better place for youth to be involved in art. It's not always easy to bring a community like ours together, so that's why we have our social media accounts. Through the past several years, we've been posting on platforms like Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Overall, we've made 596 posts and have a combined 341 followers and counting. So we've learned a lot from doing these posts, and today we're here to share what we've learned with you. Our members are going to take you through basic etiquette for posting on social media, our personal tips to make your social media profiles more effective, our best uses of social media in the past, and what you can do when you get home to be more effective at spreading your message. So to get us started, here's Dominique.
Hi, my name is Dominique Cho. I've been in Museum London's Youth Council for 5 years now. In this presentation, I'll be talking about what we learned from Matt, our social media coordinator, and I'll be giving you some social media tips myself. So the first tip is to be professional, but also have fun while posting. When we're posting on social media as a group, we're representing the group. So we can't just post unserious stuff like, I don't know, memes. So you still need to be professional and represent the council as professional members. And you still need to have fun, and you need to post things like videos and pictures of fun activities at the council, and make the post unique and interesting. Also, the next tip is to credit the artist in the post. Matt said it's common courtesy to credit the creator of the art in the post. He mentioned that it's really important to not only respect the art itself, but also the creator of the art. He also reminded us to make sure that the name of the artist and the titles of the pieces are spelled correctly. The third tip he gave us is use your phone. He explained that this is because using apps like Instagram or Snapchat can sometimes lead to losing the photo, and also because the phone's default camera produces better quality photos. Then he told us to think in 30 seconds or less before posting on social media. The purpose of this is to make a clear, simple point in the post that draws attention. Thinking quickly in less than 30 seconds helps us make a post that easily gets the point across. And the last tip Matt gave us is to go behind the scenes. Being members of the Youth Council, we have access to the museum in ways most people can only dream of. Matt told us to really show what being a member of the Youth Council is like, and how fun it is to work with so many different artists, how much experience you gain from constantly making art based on the exhibitions at the museum, etc. And now I'll be giving some tips myself. The first tip is to post helpful content rather than simply posting whatever happened at the council each week. An example, sharing our experience is good but can be made better by simply adding an art tip in the caption, for example. Posts that are helpful, like the recipes we posted last year, which Isabel will talk about later, get more attention from the audience and obviously helps them too. The second tip is to post videos. Videos are moving pictures and therefore draw a lot of attention. They can also really show the fun we have at the council and show our vitality and passion while we work on our art. The last tip is to get in the posts. Just posting the art we see or make at the council can be a little boring sometimes, so I find that posts where you can see the members are much more interesting, and it also promotes the council itself, not just the art we create.
Hi there, my name is Isabel. This winter I'll be starting my 6th year on the council. I joined the month I turned 12 and I hope to stay on for as long as I can. Our council has used social media for many years. Before I joined, I knew what the council was and what to expect because I've seen pictures and posts on social media. It was this exposure that made me initially excited to join. Our council makes use of Facebook, a Tumblr blog, and Instagram each week to document and share what we've been doing. We try to take as many pictures as we can and share them so that our posts are more interesting and engaging. Most importantly, we make sure to share our posts as much as possible so that we can reach a larger audience. Our council helps plan and run many events throughout the year. For some events, we partner with other local organizations. An event that we helped run that was really successful was the Youth Bash in 2016. This event was put on in partnership with other local youth councils and groups in honor of National Youth Week. The event was hosted by our local market in the centre of downtown London. Youth councils and groups from all over the city came together to plan and run the event. We had live music, each group had a booth with their own activities, there was free food, games, and more. Our council ran a live drawing session with a model, and our volunteers helped run many of the other activities. In order to spread the word, we created a Facebook event that we posted on our Facebook page that anyone who follows us would see. That helped us get the word out, as well as helped us get an idea of how many people were coming based on the number of people who RSVP'd, which really helped us plan. During the weeks leading up to the event, we had a local artist come in and teach us about screen printing. We learned how to screen print our own t-shirts. Then as a group, we screen printed the shirts that the volunteers at the event would wear, as well as some that we gave out as prizes, which was pretty cool. During that time, we posted on social media about our learning process. We shared pictures of what we were doing and our own designs. As we posted, we also promoted the event and shared the event details like the time and place. And our post really helped. It was a big success and a lot of people turned out. In addition to promoting events, we also post a lot about our weekly activities and the current projects we're working on. Some favorite posts from the past include our food and recipe saga. We spent a number of weeks on a food-themed project, and we did activities including printmaking and prepared a final show that we had at a local gallery. Each week, a different council member brought in a favorite family recipe that we then posted on our social media for everyone to try cooking at home. The member would then share a few words about why they chose that particular recipe to share. This tied into the rest of the post about the food-themed project and activities we were working on at the time. The recipes made our post more interesting and allowed our audience to participate. It also brought more traffic to the blog as people came back each week to try out the new recipes. Another event that our council helped out with was hosted by Museum London. It was a recreation of one of Colette Urban's former exhibitions called Till. The event showcased her work and included an activity that the council helped prepare for. We posted pictures of us creating the components of the activity and posted intriguing pictures on our blog to help create curiosity about the event. This technique was successful in getting the word out about the event and let people know there would be hands-on activities. On the night of the event, we were able to volunteer and share the activities we had prepared with the public. It was a big success and it was a lot of fun. Our council has been using social media for many years. It's been a successful way to get the word out about our events. We're always looking for new ideas to improve our social media online presence and make it as exciting and engaging as possible.
And I'll try to... Sure. And I'll try to wrap this up as quickly as possible. So here are 3 points that I made to sum up what our council members have said today. I just want to add that since I've joined, I've been absolutely astounded by what our youth can accomplish by reaching out through social media. First is up the quality of your posts. Remember your posting etiquette, give credit, and preserve image quality. The second is to make it personal, because that's what social media is all about. And the third is to join up at the local event to share your message. Time and time again, that's helped us turn our social media work into real-life connections and results. I wanted to take a couple seconds to share what we've been working on this year so far. With myself as the artist in residence, we're working on making a zine. We're calling it Rise Zine because The rhino is the unofficial mascot of our museum, as we have a Ron Benner sculpture out front of a rhino. We've also relaunched our Instagram with a new name, and we've created our own eclectic font, which you can download on our Instagram page. Lastly, we're really excited to share what we got up to in Ottawa this weekend on our own profiles, so you're welcome to follow us at these on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you.
Can I? Yeah. It's on.
Thank you so much. Super appreciated. And just to go with what Dominic Cho mentioned, if I could take a second to accredit the beautiful art we have on stage is Claudia Gutierrez's piece. Way. And yeah, does anybody have questions so far of what they've seen on the screen, or for any of our presenters on any?
So maybe this goes back to podcasts and pizza. But did you guys have trouble? Convincing Museum London that you wanted a separate page, a separate identity from them?
Youth Council identity?
Like a Youth Council identity and not use Museum London's Facebooks, for example.
So when I first joined, I think the council had already created their own Instagram, and I know the blog had been around for a while. So I think just since then it's sort of evolved and keep coming and expanding into more accounts, and we've just kind of been adding more, I guess, over the years.
From the museum perspective, it was always important that our youth council is youth-led. So we've had social media pages for as long as we've been running, separate for the council.
Thank you. I believe there was another question, if I'm not mistaken, just in front, or that answered it too. Two questions in one. Génial. Question en arrière.
Sorry, maybe I missed this because I went out to pee for a minute while you're talking. Sorry. But I was wondering if there's, like, what are the mechanics of, like, does the museum kind of vet the posts, or are the youth allowed to post what they like? Or, like, how is that policed? Again, I guess to use that. Yeah.
I think it just really depends on what we're working on, like what projects we're working on, and I think we're kind of just free to post whatever just promotes the things we're doing. I think no one really just restricts us or anything, so it just has to be fun and promoting, interesting. Yeah.
So that means that every member of the youth council has access to the login info. That's nice. Okay. Great.
I don't think we actually each have access, but we forward what we want to say and stuff to Jacqueline, and then she posts it for us. But it's still being done by the youth, which is gorgeous, and which I think is a good example for any educators in the room. Donc, merci beaucoup. Thank you. One more question. One more question.
Can I follow up on that question? Jacqueline, do you edit the posts once the youth send them to you?
Oh no, it goes up as is. I'll ask them to add their names or something, but we have a really great group.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, la gang de London.
So yeah, this is Thunder Bay, and we're trying to empower youth to create social change. So our youth art group right now is kind of on the groundworks. We're trying to start it up, get members. So this is a great opportunity to be here and to see what you guys have done. So yeah, I am Dawn. That's the clicker. Oh,
Hello.
Sorry.
Hello. Hi, and I'm Matt, one of the YAG mentors.
And I'm Carly. I'm the youth representative.
And I'm one of the mentors as well. So here is just kind of a quick view of the Thunder Bay Art Gallery currently up at the top there. We're pretty isolated, unfortunately. The building is a little bit older, but we are next to our college, which is great because we have some college students that will come in sometimes. Yeah, and this is actually a quick rendering at the bottom of what our new gallery is supposed to look like. So, ooh, this is exciting. So it's going to be located actually at our bustling waterfront district, and that's really been revived and it's doing really, really well. So yeah, it's supposed to be pretty big, a lot bigger than the space we have now. That's one of the issues that we've had is we don't really have that much space. So it would be great, and this is a great opportunity for youth to give their input of what they want the gallery space to look like. So our presentation will cover where we've been,
Where we are.
And where we're going.
So I have to give you guys like a little bit of history on Thunder Bay, just because I'm sure not a lot of people have heard about it before or have been there. So it actually wasn't always called Thunder Bay. It was actually the city of Port Arthur and Fort William, and they were two separate cities. Fort William was really known for its fur trading, so it's known as Old Fort William. Nowadays we have a big fort at the mouth of the Cam River, and then we have Port Arthur, and that was really known as a silver mining settlement. So our symbol of unity. Well, we can see that the two cities were actually often in competition with one another, never really uniting until the city of Thunder Bay was created. So ever since the two cities have amalgamated into one, however, in the 19th century, in the 20th century, the sleeping giant has really been a symbol of unity for Thunder Bay and its surrounding communities. Thunder Bay is really isolated, but we have a ton of small communities around us, which is great. Yeah, so some of you may already know this, but there's our little sleeping giant, otherwise known as Nana Bijou. And it's kind of important to know a little bit of the legend of Nana Bijou. So here's a quick synopsis, if I can make it a little bit short for you. So the story of the sleeping giant suggests that the spirit of the deep sea, or Nana Bijou, would turn to stone and stop supplying the Ojibwe peoples with silver if they shared their treasures with the settlers. So the legend, unfortunately, he turned to stone, so we can kind of see what happened there. But the legend reveals a kind of negative connotation to the story. However, today the sleeping giant is really regarded as a symbol of unity, and it unifies the small, ever-growing communities within northwestern Ontario, because Thunder Bay is really the hub of there. So like I said, we're a really unique city. We have many surrounding municipalities such as Neebing, Oliver Papoonge, the townships of Comrie, Gillies, O'Connor, Shunya, and the Aboriginal community of Fort William First Nations. So, like I said, Thunder Bay really is the main hub for this, and it is pretty small. We have a lot going on, and we're trying to revive it, but it is pretty small. So, the Thunder Bay Art Gallery is in a really unique situation in which we have a ton of interesting communities surrounding us with lots of opportunity to create outreach programs in order to hear their voices as well. If we could apply this symbol of unity to our youth art program and create a group that is receptive to and accepting to everyone and anyone's idea, we believe that we can empower youth and prepare them for their future, all the while having fun in the present. So, I'm just going to read the Thunder Bay Art Gallery's mandate quickly. So as a non-profit public art gallery, the Thunder Bay Art Gallery exhibits, collects, and interprets art with particular focus on the contemporary artwork of Canadian Aboriginal and Northwestern Ontario artists. The gallery advances the relationship between artists, their art, and the public, nurturing a lifelong appreciation of contemporary visual arts among the residents of and visitors to Thunder Bay. So the gallery really serves to unify the city of Thunder Bay and its local artists, as well as many international artists as well. So we figured that because the Thunder Bay Art Gallery works so tirelessly to showcase the enormous amount of artists in Northwestern Ontario and around the globe, that same ideology could apply to our youth art group. So we want all youth to feel like they can really make a social change with their voices and their art. And this is really where we've been, and Matt's going to take you on where we are currently.
Yeah, so for where we are, do you want to back up?
Oh, yeah.
So I'd just like to kind of go over some of the youth programming we have going on in Thunder Bay, some cool different things. Some may be familiar with Diactive and their epic kind of graffiti stuff going on. But we'll start with YAG, so that's kind of the initiative we're starting. It's a funny thing, it's actually been Youth Art Group. Yeah, it's kind of it's a funny acronym.
We just like the acronym.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're getting started. It's been attempted to be started before, but it kind of keeps kind of losing momentum. So we're gonna try and like take the lessons we've learned from today and other things that we do, and try and get the momentum of Youth Art Group going through things like websites and social media and whatnot. And anyway, so moving on to Diactive, it's one of the projects run by definitely superior art galleries, great youth programming. They tap into kind of graffiti art and artists workshops and artists in residence and a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of great things going on. And Nietzsche Studio is also, I think, under the umbrella of the definitely Superior Art Gallery, a lot of great programming going on there. And then last but not least, KHEP, which is Cultural Association Heritage Education Program. So a lot of great stuff going on. So I just wanted to talk maybe a bit about our successes that we have so far in the present. So right now we have a lot of great programming with local schools, elementary schools, high schools coming. They do big tours, they have workshops, great turnouts. Our juried art show has great turnout. It's the Lakehead undergrad BFA students and HBFA students, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and they do a huge show, take over the whole space, and 600 to 800 folks come out on the opening night. And then one last thing I want to talk about was ICE, really briefly, was that that was kind of a cool program run by the Schisms, the high school skills major. And it was like a cool think tank, and they actually presented us some really cool ideas. So here briefly are some pictures. And these are the think tank folks, and they provide us a lot of awesome ideas, which you can see on these post-its, a lot to do with just being more interactive for the youth. And they do this cool bread tree I thought I'd include, and a cool idea for a graffiti wall at the new art gallery. And challenges we face, I'll just briefly go over: recruitment, funding, accessibility, scheduling, maintaining relationships, space, and I'm sure that'll come up tomorrow in some of our discussions as we bounce ideas back and forth. And then moving on. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Carly. I am a high school student in Thunder Bay. I was one of the first youth to join the youth art group, and my vision was to create an art form using the sleeping giant as a symbol of Thunder Bay to raise awareness about issues in my community and the possible solutions to these issues too. And so our film is called The Giant Awakens, and this was our first project as a group. So we're going to show this. Okay, so that was our film. And okay, so here's a little bit of my story. I'll try to make it short. So I wanted to do something to raise awareness about the issues in my community, like racism, poverty, and pollution. And my idea to raise awareness was to show the sleeping giant waking up, which represents that Thunder Bay needs to wake up to the realities surrounding us. And I was able to make my vision a reality by the means of the youth art group at the Thunder Bay Art Gallery. And the film has made a difference in my community and is raising awareness about these issues, so it's really good. Okay, so our vision is to give youth a voice, exhibit opportunities, hands-on learning, safe space, opportunities to work with experienced artists like Zoe Gordon, who helped us with the film, and an opportunity to meet new people, networking within a creative arts field, learning new forms of art, and professional development. So where we're going is we want to make opportunities for a safe space for the youth to have their voices heard and to be able to have the resources to different forms of self-expression, and developing different platforms for viewing work online and to be able to contact people who live outside of Thunder Bay so they can be able to be a part of the Thunder Bay Art Gallery through the media. And that's it. Oh, yeah, and how we're going to get there is free food, information sessions for youth and parents, responsive programming, establishing a good relationship with schools, and that's everything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love this music. Before we go to the questions, I was just hoping, Matt, maybe you can elaborate or just explain, expliquer l'acronyme ICE. What is ICE? Because you said
I think it stands for Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship, and it's kind of an initiative by the SHISM, which I briefly mentioned, which is kind of this specialization program in a lot of high schools now, where you can get this kind of cool red seal on your diploma. So yeah, so essentially we got all these high school students that are really focused on creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and we got them to create a think tank, and they propose all these awesome ideas and things for us moving forward with YAG and the Art Gallery. Yeah.
Perfect, merci. Did anybody else have a question for the crew from Thunder Bay, pour l'équipe de Thunder Bay? Oui, ici, Madame de London.
What do you do as mentors?
What do you do as mentors?
That's a really good question. So, I guess we haven't really decided what our age range is for the Thunder Bay Youth Art Group. That's something we kind of need to get more into the schools and figure out, because people tend to leave Thunder Bay once they graduate high school, so we haven't really figured out an age range yet. And both Matt and I I've graduated university and Matt is doing his master's right now. So we're just kind of mentoring some youth that want to come in and, giving them, we have visual art backgrounds, so we can, maybe do some open studio sessions with them and stuff, and kind of be that bridge to the art gallery. If they have an idea, they can maybe pass it through us, and we can mention it to the art gallery. So, yeah.
I think another thing we do is also model learning, I guess, like model the way, to engage in an activity to an extent. Just having another participant there is active and enjoying things can be contagious for other participants. So.
I want to just add, I'm sorry, I've been a participant of Diactive and of other activities, and you guys truly push forward youth and listen. And I think it's something absolutely gorgeous, and it's why you'll find communities like North Bay who've invited Diactive in the program that you guys are running to come and participate and network and show them a bit the reins. So thank you for that, first of all, I must say. Sorry to interrupt, but you need the credit. It's amazing what you're doing. Is there any other question? Y a-t-il d'autres questions? Questions, pardon. Oui, moi je vous vois pas en passant, donc peut-être un petit mot, Alexis, merci. Thank you.
What is Diactive?
Diactive is a kind of an umbrella group, or no, it's under the umbrella of Definitely Superior Art Gallery, and it's another group that does youth programming in Thunder Bay, and they do publications like zines, like I think we saw with the London group, and lots of great programming like graffiti walls, big group activities like that, painting workshops for making, etc.
Thank you. Is there any more question? Y a-t-il d'autres questions? Maybe make a little movement so I can see that shining in the light that you are there. I see some movement. Thank you. Ah, that works. C'est génial. J'aime ça. Merci, Alexis. There's always a solution.
So you must be pretty excited for the new space that's going to be opened up for the new gallery, or I believe. Just my question is, will there be any dedicated youth space within this new art gallery?
Well, that is something that is kind of a nice idea with this youth art group, because the gallery hasn't been made yet. We are able to kind of gather their ideas and pitch it to, say, our executive director, and really have their voices heard in the making of this gallery. So we're hoping to have more space for youth art programming. That's really we really hope so anyway.
Yeah, as well as the architects actually have done a lot of the drawings already, and the education space is like 5-10 times larger, at least on the drawings, for at least for everything from lectures to like studio space and everything. So that's an exciting prospect, because at the moment our space is very small.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Thunder Bay. Thank you for your time. Merci pour votre temps. Oui. Et si je me trompe?
All right, so hi, we're the Ottawa Art Gallery, like Sarah just said. And simply put, we're an initiative to increase free access to art to youth in Ottawa. So what we're trying to do, a part of what we do, is trying to navigate the art world in a new way. And each of us come from different backgrounds, and we have different levels of education, and we just try to navigate the art world using our different perspectives. And part of what we also want to do is interrogate our relationship to the institutions around us, and especially the institutions that we work under. So we're trying to understand the context that we operate in, identify constraints and challenges, and of course, challenge the constraints. And we're also trying to reevaluate long-standing structures that might operate without prioritizing inclusion. And we're also trying to be mindful of ourselves as decision makers, and recognize our responsibilities as event organizers that are operating underneath these institutions. So a little bit about who we are. We are a group of people within the age range of 16 to 25. We're all pretty like-minded people who all have an interest in art and community building. And what we do is, like I said, try to increase access to free art. And as Alexis Boyle, our leader, really well said, we aim to create opportunities to explore art as a vehicle for social change, self-expression, and community building. And at the same time, we're trying to host an ongoing conversation about youth engagement. We're also just trying to provide a good time. And why we're doing what we're doing, well, the Ottawa Art Gallery saw a need to increase youth inclusion. And so how they went about that was they called for applications, and all of us went through an interview process. And now we meet once a month to collaborate on events that focus specifically on including the youth.
Alright, so throughout the year, since this is our first year that the Youth Council was made, we've made a lot of events for the community for free. So we were in collaboration with many artists and local businesses to really showcase their talent and their products, and give access to the public to all kinds of different artistic activities. So the first one was with Aya Bessler. She led the button making workshop. That was really popular. The location was central, and it's an activity that not many people have access to, so we were happy to provide that space. They were able to make personalized buttons using the magazine cutouts, and that was great. The second one was an interactive participative artwork with francophone artist José Dubois and videographer Leslie Marshall, who documented this event. So this was called Earshot, or Apporter de la Voix. And it was really an activity where there was two people, and one person would hold one end of the string saying, "Can you hear me?" And the other person would keep walking until they can't hear the person anymore. So then they would cut the ties, very symbolic, and wrap it around, and we aligned them all up on the ground. And it was really fun. So our latest event was a temporary tattoo parlor, or Salon de Tatouage Temporaire. This was with two artists, so Dimple Mystery, who is on the left. She's an Ottawa U student in visual arts, and she does a lot of jago gel and henna and face painting in Canada's Wonderland. And she made on-site jago gel demonstrations and kind of showed people how you can apply it, while also providing extra bottles to the public so that they can create their own pieces of work on themselves, along with other stations like body paint and markers and pens. And we had this really great artist too, Becky Dahl, who is a queer femme tattoo artist. She gave a presentation on her experience, her journey. It was really inspiring to see such a young artist succeed in the field, just like Morgana. And the Dreamland Cafe as well. They provided the delicious pizza. So, as I'm sure you are all aware, this is YAS. Do you know it? I'm not sure. This was an idea proposed back in March by Alexis. And she was inspired by the teen convening in Boston. This was in US, so we decided maybe doing one in Canada, in Ontario specifically, seeing what Ontarians want to see being done in the future. So our goal with this event is to improve accessibility of arts to youth across Ontario through discussions led by youth on what initiatives they want to see happening in the future. And hopefully throughout the weekend we will be able to succeed in that.
Alright, so like any initiative, it's really important to kind of reflect and look at what worked and what didn't work, so I'm going to focus on what went well. Alright, so word of mouth. So of course we advertise our events on Facebook and Instagram and everything, but we felt that what really worked is that people told their friends, and at their events they came in groups together, so we thought that worked really well. So the atmosphere. So we made sure that we created a very fun and relaxing atmosphere. For example, at our Burling event, so the temporary tattoo event, we had pillows on the floor and we had lights, like light bulbs on strings and everything, so it was a really cool and fun atmosphere, and encouraged conversations to happen. Alright, so another perk, of course, was that it was free, so all of our events were free. We also provided free food, and the participants were able to access materials and were able to interact with the artists, which is really cool because not everyone gets to make like pins every day. So, alright, and collaboration. So of course we've collaborated with local businesses, we've collaborated with local artists. And our role as a youth council is really to facilitate those spaces and those conversations. There's also collaborations amongst participants, so it's a really great way to network and meet people who are kind of like-minded. And meeting demand. So the popularity of our events show that there's definitely a demand for free local events for youth, and we're really proud to kind of meet that demand and bring these activities to our community. We're also able to break barriers. So of course, money is a huge barrier for a lot of people, and we were able to break some of those barriers by providing things for free. And we also broke barriers by giving platforms and opportunities to young artists, local artists, artists of color, queer artists, and everything. So we thought that was a really great initiative. And finally, measuring success. So of course it's easy to measure success using metrics such as how many people like the post and how many people shared the event on Facebook and everything, but we really looked at the quality. So we looked at the quality of the interactions, the engagement with the artist, giving a platform for newer artists, something that they can add to their CV. So artists get access to new audiences, and of course an opportunity for youth to participate in these events.
Yeah, so as kind of mentioned, we were successful in a lot of ways. But part of this success kind of requires this constant reflection of how are we actually creating these inclusive artistic spaces that can necessitate social change. Can I just take the first slide? Okay.
Hello. Oh, yes.
Okay, Should I say that again, or did you all hear me? Okay, I'll say that again. So we were successful in a lot of ways, which Ken had mentioned, but part of that success requires evaluating where we need to improve. And if we're going to have a mission of creating inclusive programming for youth, part of that mission requires that we kind of evaluate where we missed the mark. So a lot of what we learned is about the responsibilities, complexities, and politics of facilitating spaces. We learned about how our different approaches, missions, and goals intersect with each other and how they get intersected by the gallery and by our sponsor, #TDBank. We learned how to use social media and when we failed. So when social media was kind of privileged over actually being in the event, I think we could work on that a bit. We almost learned how to convince small businesses to give us free food, but we weren't quite successful. But I think most of what we learned is the areas that we need to discuss. So if we're putting on these programs, like Yasmin said, with this mission of creating these inclusive spaces, and if we want to kind of represent our moment's catalyst for social change, some small subculture supporting rad and inclusive youth initiatives, then we need to address some key concerns of like what barriers, silos, and systems exist, and do we operate in that prevent us from getting these. So like, how do we engage youth across difference? How do we like operate within institutions with like complicated histories? Under what circumstances do we as a group of young people get to call a space that we feel safe and safe? How do we honor our commitment to make space for new voices? Which public does free public youth arts programming in the downtown core access? And how can we move beyond these dense histories of marginalization, exclusion, and erasure in gallery and in museum settings without erasing these histories themselves? Which is, of course, just the start to the conversation and a really dope start, which is why we invited all of you to come talk about this, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts in the days to come. So even with some of our programs where we failed and where we've succeeded, that is important to talk about because that is kind of part of the process. And that is the work that I think all of us as youth councils are trying to do. We all work with galleries because we believe in their potential. We believe that galleries can be sites of care and intention and of learning and creativity and innovation and collaboration and community-based and sustained cultural production. And I just want to say that working with the OAG has been really dope because I think they're really successful in what they do with community engagement and showcasing exciting and daring artists. And we continue to work with these institutions because we believe that they can move towards being playful and empathetic and safe and nurturing and fun and contemplative, or whatever it is that we want them to be as young people, if we start small and stay local. So with that, we are looking forward to getting started with you all at the symposium now and tomorrow and the next day. So welcome, thank you.
You know it's my time to talk, when that music comes on. Génial. So yes, thank you, la gang d'Ottawa, merci beaucoup. Do we have any questions for them? Est-ce qu'il y a des questions? I'm just really moving around to make sure I can see you. Je vais juste pas bouger, m'assurer que je vous vois. Oui, on a une question ici, je vais vous prêter mon micro.
Hello. Oh, okay. You go first. No, you go first. It's okay.
I apologize.
All right. What's your personal Facebook? No, I'm just kidding. What's your Facebook though? Like, what's your? How do I get in contact with you guys?
We actually thought in advance. Follow us.
Follow you guys at. Oh, I see. Okay, my other question was, what's the age range again?
It's
16 to 25.
To 25, okay. And if you're over 25, is there any like opportunities to like help the youth in this?
Yeah, you can like get a facelift and then. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Alexis about that. Alexis, do you have anything to say about that? Yeah, you can volunteer. Yeah, there are a lot of volunteer opportunities at the gallery. I volunteer with them. They have something like for during the summer they had a lot of like public engagement programs where we went out into the world and did things, and we invited the world into certain spaces to do things. So
there are a lot of volunteer opportunities. You can check out the Ottawa Art Gallery website or the Facebook page, and you can for sure, I think there's actually an email on the website specifically for if you're interested in volunteering, I think. So.
What was my hand? Oh, no, I forgot. Okay, go next.
All right, yes, thank you so much. And the next question is just here in front.
Okay, so you were saying that you were having trouble getting local businesses to, yeah, so I was wondering if you could elaborate on that. What exactly is the hurdle that you're facing?
Of getting local businesses to give us free food?
Yes. Like, what are the responses basically when you approach them? Or how are you approaching them?
They're usually like too poor to do that, so. But I think we've had Pizza give us free pizza for a couple of events, but then our whole thing is like about.
We've always paid for food.
Yeah, like I know that it's hard to reach, because like it would be so dope to have a collaboration between like a small local business and this art group, but it's really hard for those businesses to give free food away and like in the quantities that are large enough to support the kind of public programming that we're doing. So we haven't quite figured out that balance.
Yeah, we work within budgets, right? So that's
right.
another hurdle, and so that's why we try to get free food wherever we can.
So like we could go to like, I know we were talking about like going to Pita Pit at one point, but then it's also kind of like, well then we have to market Pita Pit, so I don't know.
Okay, this Artist Run Center in Hamilton, the Hamilton Artists Inc., they are really successful at getting like sponsorship somehow and getting local businesses to you know, provide free food and in return we promote and like you know. So I will talk to them, see exactly what they're doing, and follow up with you guys.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it'll help.
Before we get to the next question, I just really want to mention, j'espère que vous avez remarqué, I hope you guys noticed, like we're on the first day, we're in the first few hours, and already I find the objective of why symposiums should exist more and more. We're seeing it happen right now. Networking, connecting, sharing our resources. So please keep that vibe going. Oui, la prochaine question, the next question.
What are some of your like plans going forward, and how are you gonna like transition into your second year? Because that's like sort of a big thing.
Well, there were actually questions going around about whether we would go through another round of like applications, whether like everyone would be like not like eliminated, but like we would like start from scratch, and then like everyone would have to reapply. But I think we're kind of just gonna stick with what we have, and we're all gonna remain members if we're allowed to, and just continue receiving applications. So I mean, part of what we're trying to figure out now is where we're gonna go. I mean, we've been also working on the YAS Art Symposium forever, so it's sort of like, oh, okay, after this is over, then we'll be able to answer your question. Like, after this is over, we'll be able to start thinking about our future, I think, so.
Maybe a question for Facebook later in time to keep connecting. Is there oui, une autre question, madame? Oui.
I got it.
That's light.
So you only have a limited number of people on your council.
Yeah, about 10.
So 10 people are council members. So how many people come to your events? You said your events are big, so how many people come?
We've had like 3 events so far.
Yeah, so I think at the pin party it was about 70 or so. We didn't really count the amount, but just like estimation about like 70 people. And at the
Was hard to measure because people kept coming and going, but probably around 30 to 40.
No, I'd say 100. We went through so much pizza.
What?
There were 100 people there.
No way.
Yeah, you weren't there the whole time.
That's true. 100.
Yeah. So would you consider them like members then that come, or just they're just participants?
Probably
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges, I guess, is that we're pretty new, so we're still trying to get our connections, and we're sharing the word as much as we can, and as like the time goes, and we're learning through like location too, like what location works best to host an event, is it centrality or a known place. So as time goes on, we're hoping to get more and more followers, and people will know more about our events, because right now it's really the council members who share the event, and we have the help from the Ottawa Art Gallery as well. They share our posts and share the word. So hopefully coming forth, we'll see more.
Okay, cool. So I just want to go back to a couple of the other groups. So Museum London, what was the age you guys had?
We are 13 to 19.
13 to 19. How long have you been in existence?
6-7 years.
6 or 7 years. That's for everybody else. Thunder Bay, we're just starting. We don't know our age. Workers, Arts and Heritage Center, you're 16 to 25. How long have you been around?
16 to 24.
16 to 24 years. Ooh.
I think that was their age range.
Oh, their age range.
I was
Okay.
correct.
How you personally been around for 16 to 24 years? Okay, no. How long has the Youth Council been around?
For about 2 years now.
We're going into our 3rd year.
Going into your
So
3rd
we've
year.
completed 2 years.
AGO, you're 14 to 25, correct?
Yeah.
And how long have you been around?
10 years.
10 years.
14 years.
I think that's everybody. Okay.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. I think we have time for the last question. You're saying, oh, I can't see you.
I just wanted to mention that boosting things, paying money for social media makes things happen, makes people come.
Oui, merci.
Hi, Youth Council. I went to P, so maybe I missed something, but I have a question about how, because you're a group of 10, you do workshops and events that look really, really impressive. So how do you divide the labor of creating these events between, 5 to 10 active members?
So our group is really diverse in the sense that not everyone is necessarily a visual artist. We have different backgrounds from design, we have communications, we have just different kinds of backgrounds, and we kind of use our skills in play, I guess. I don't know if you each want to say what we've done in the past.
It's also completely on a volunteer basis. Like whoever feels like, oh, this is appropriate for me to take on, like I will do that. And we're all in this council because we're interested in it, so we're all actively engaged in it. And wherever someone can't do something, they're not gonna take on anything they can't. And at the same time, a lot of us are students, right? So it's like I said, it's on a volunteer basis based on what role is appropriate to.
We also have funding and the resources of the OAG. And I think the artists that we've worked with are really talented and really good at facilitating spaces, so that helps too.